Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Refried Friday, where I absolutely love hearing all of your feedback because you all like me. Each and every one of you like me, and there's not any debate there. And there were plenty of nice things you guys had to say about me for this past week, so let's jump into it. NESW says, talk about the $1,000 Pixel book. Okay, I thought I talked about it quite a bit at the Pixel Rant video. It was 10 seconds. Okay, sure. MKBHD recently posted a video about the $1,000 Pixel book, and I have to say, while I disagree with him on a lot of things, that's something I definitely don't disagree with him on. It is weird. Bezels are unnaturally big, and I get that Pixel wants to have an iconic design, so that iconic design is to just be partially glass on the top. It's, okay. Again, I just think that's weird. I think you can be iconic with being functional at the same time. And the fact that a Chrome OS device that is running a blown up version of Android and kind of a toned down version of Chrome OS is competing in the same market as the Surface Pro 4 and the MacBook. Yeah, what are you doing, Google? You literally power your stylus that costs $99 with a quadruple A battery. MKBHD showed how unresponsive that stylus is in the video, and he likes the Pixel. So yeah, it's just weird. Andrew Dang says, doesn't agree because source is biased, market self as biased channel. I do. I am very open about the fact that I am biased. Big time Apple sheep. I mean, just look at the boxes behind me. The difference with Google, though, is they just say highest rated smartphone camera. They're not open about that. They're not open about the fact that we partnered with DxOMark. We paid DxOMark to work with us to give us this high score. Those are two different things. If you want to call me biased, I will embrace it. The advertising team for the Google Pixel was not admitting bias because marketing teams aren't really supposed to. They're supposed to come off as honest and just straightforward and factual, and I was calling them out saying that just calling your smartphone camera the highest rated is definitely bias, and you're stating it like it's a fact. It is not. Eric Rose says, word you're hunting for, telephoto versus wide shots, is compression. Natural compression created by telephoto lenses is what gives facial features a more pleasing and balanced look, whereas a wide-angle lens doesn't compress and stretches out facial features and looks far less flattering. I thought this was a really interesting comment, obviously by someone who actually knows what they're talking about. I know what compression was, but yeah, I couldn't find the word at the time. I'm glad that other people out there were understanding what I meant by telephoto lenses versus wide-angle lenses. Like, if you saw the video that Unbox Therapy did with Jonathan Morrison and David Lee, when they all collabed and they all try to stuff themselves into that wide-angle lens, you notice that when they crop in, stretches out faces. It's not good. And for those of you who don't know, when I'm filming Vive videos, I am zoomed in as well. I'm around the 55 to 60 millimeter mark on my Lumix camera, because if this was shot in wide angle, it would look kind of bizarre. So yes, Google, having extra lens options on your smartphone is very useful. And just like how they bragged about having a headphone jack last year, I'm sure next year when we see the Pixel 3 or whatever, they'll brag about having a dual camera and act like it's normal. Even though right now they're just saying, no need. You have software. Software performs the best when it has the most capable hardware to work with. The more data you're collecting, the better your software can perform. I wouldn't even know, sorry, this video is not all about frames per second, Drew. 4K at 30 can be better than 4K at 60. Again, it is debatable, but the difference is the iPhone 10 can do 4K at 30 and 4K at 60, and actually 4K at 24. That's also an option. The Pixel 2 cannot do that. What I'm complaining about with the DxOMark is that they do not take into consideration that the iPhone 10 is providing that option for people out there who would like 4K at 60. Lots of people do. They want the option to be able to crop in on their shots, to get all of those extra pixels, but also have the option of extra frames. No, video is not all about recording resolutions and frame rates. I understand that. But I'm saying for the people who do value that, the iPhone 10 offers it. And DxOMark does not give it credit for those extra options. They only care about what the Pixel can do, and they don't care about the features that other phones provide. Tanmay Patel says, hey Drew, I don't know. I honestly think Pixel 2 takes better stills. Did you guys watch the video? Did you catch what I said? They gave the iPhone 10 the overall best score for taking still photos, and I said I actually disagree with that. I also do not deny the fact that the Pixel 2 has a great camera. In fact, I would say that the Pixel 2 is better at taking stills. Based on the pictures I've seen the Pixel 2 take, I think in terms of HDR and sensor quality, it does take better stills in some regards, and I think the iPhone 10 is better for video. The DxOMark said the exact opposite. Sometimes I see people that, you know, the point is here and they miss it entirely. They don't get it. Ismail says, solution, use Apple Pay on my Folio case review. A ton of people kept bringing this up. You don't need to bring your debit or credit cards with you because you can use Apple Pay. First of all, I live in a tiny town. Not everywhere supports Apple Pay. Let Let me think of one. Taco Bell. Oh shoot. I only brought my phone because I thought everyone used Apple Pay. Also, you're supposed to have your driver's license on you when you're driving. I don't want to just hold the driver's license in my pocket. It's nice to have a wallet. People hand you business cards. Come on. You get cash sometimes, right? You have cash. You want a wallet to put it in. I can't believe you guys. Mandy says, does the iPhone 10 have the option to change the size of the app icons? This was actually a really great question. A lot of people have been asking things about the iPhone 10, and this is one I didn't think about. On the iPhone 8 Plus, you have the option of a standard look of apps or a zoomed view where things are bigger. Despite the iPhone 10 having a larger display than the Plus, because of the fact that the width of it is not much wider than that of a regular iPhone 8, there is no zoomed in option like the Plus has. Similarly, there's also no landscape option, so despite the 10 having the largest display ever, it does not allow a blown up option, no. Perhaps they could add that sometime, but great question. Thanks for asking. Michael Young says, you have to enable two-factor authentication to be able to use Apple Pay Cash via iMessage. I have just figured this out, and believe me, I was not happy about it. I think Apple makes two-factor authentication require like your blood type and your DNA sample to log into things. It asks you so many questions. Turning it off is like more complicated than setting off a nuclear bomb, but I did turn it on, and then I did activate the Apple Watch to unlock MacBook feature, which is actually really nice, especially when Touch ID doesn't work. And sadly, I don't have anyone else yet to use Apple Pay Cash with yet. No one else is on the beta. No one else has debit cards ready to transact, but as soon as someone does, I'd love to try. If someone out there wants to try it, feel free to send me money. I'll let you know my Apple ID. The Mr. Undercover was talking about my iPad concept. Looks very similar to Venya Geskin's concept. Glass would make the iPad too heavy. I understand that having a glass back on the next generation iPad would make it a lot heavier, but you gotta admit, something that is literally thinner than a pencil, it's really not that heavy. I think we can take the extra weight. Obviously, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus were definitely heavier than the models before that, but Apple didn't care. And this is not called the iPad Air anymore, so you can't even say that iPads are designed to be light. It's all about Pro now, right? It's all about the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Yes, a glass back would be insanely heavy, but it's a risk I'm willing to take because these things are not terribly heavy. Actually, a 12.9-inch iPad with glass on both sides, I could actually understand that getting heavy pretty quickly, but at least the 10.5-inch version is fine. You know how there's one size for the iPhone 10, maybe they can have one size for the iPad Pro next year. They'll be like, form factor, minimal bezels, works out for everyone. Forza Texas power button is basically dedicated Siri button. I wanted to call this out specifically and say no. One thing I don't like about Samsung phones that oftentimes I forget about is the invention of the Bixby button. They wanted to make a dedicated button that literally had one feature, and only recently do they allow you to remap it. Apple doesn't do that. What I really appreciate about Apple is their use of being efficient. They don't want to add extra buttons, add extra things just so that there's more customizability. They want to make sure that one button does a lot of things. Like before the 10, obviously we had the home button. That was our Touch ID sensor. That's how we accessed multitasking. How we accessed Siri. That's how we accessed Apple Pay. Accessed reachability there. So removing it, they definitely added a lot of functionality to the side button. It is not just a Siri button. In fact, very rarely do I activate Siri via the side button. Most of the time I just use the command, but I just had to stop you really quick and say no, it is not dedicated anything. The side button is simply a multifunctional button. TriStar says, I absolutely love this channel, but this is depressingly ignorant. This is on my Razer phone impressions video. A lot of you guys like that one. Poorly researched and utterly lazy review. It reeks of sheer bitterness, likely due to the Razer phone taking some of the hype away from the iPhone 10, and deservedly, so mind you. Look, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I thought the iPhone 10 was overhyped, and I was very much looking forward to the hype for the iPhone 10 finally going away because we've been talking about it for 15 months. If another phone wants to unveil itself around the iPhone 10, steal some of the hype about it, that's fine. I'm very much okay with it. But I would love to know what was poorly researched. I was literally pulling facts from Razer.com, and my point about gaming and the idea of having a gaming phone was that gamers prioritize games over tech specs, and the Nintendo Switch is a great example of that. Not performing the highest frame rates, not performing the highest resolutions, especially compared to other consoles it's competing with, but because it has games that people like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, that's why people are into the Switch. It's not necessarily about tech specs. And I was just trying to ask people who are interested in the Razer phone, what about the Play Store has games you're completely interested in. What insane mobile games are you looking forward to playing at 120 hertz? If it has 120 hertz, that makes it a gaming device. My iPad Pro is now a gaming device. It has 120. Just move on to the next one. Azondem says, you're dumb. That phone is not for you. It's for gamers. Acting know everything on gaming, stupid. I definitely don't know everything on gaming, but of what I do know, I can usually run this test with most gamers out there really quickly. It's a very simple test, and I love asking people this. So of the gamers watching this, you're a gamer, right? You're like, yeah, I love playing video games. Think of a game you're excited for that hasn't come out yet or is already out and you're really enjoying it. Think of that game, all right? Think of the name of it of your head. You're thinking of different things, I can tell. You're like, oh yeah, I like this game a lot. Looking forward to playing this, or I'm playing this right now and I love this game. Is that game on the Google Play Store? I doubt it. I have very high doubts. There's some of you that probably say yes, but for the most part, you weren't thinking of something on the Play Store, were you? Back to square one says, budget smartphones are cool, but I wish they came with larger storage options. And he said that on the Essential Phone video. Like, you guys realize there's certain places you can buy the Essential Phone that make it even $50 cheaper? You can get it for $450. All Essential phones have 128 gigs of storage. No, you can't expand that, but dang. $450 for a phone with 128 gigs, not bad at all. So, back to square one. What are you talking about? You want to pay $200 for a phone with 256 gig? Because that'll eventually happen, but it's just not time yet. Adwait says, you should shoot in 30 FPS, bro. This footage looks full of noise. I like filming at 60. You know why? Because when YouTubers film at 4K, barely anyone notices it. So many people are watching things on their phone. People are watching things on Safari, which Google doesn't allow you to up-res above 1080p. People are watching on their tablets. Very few people are loading up your 4K YouTube reviews onto a 4K television with a 4K computer attached to it that is capable of processing 4K stuff. But even a smartphone can notice 60 FPS, which means that whether you're on a TV, an iPad, a laptop, or even a mobile phone, you do notice a little bit of extra quality, a little bit of up-res content for me with that extra FPS. I like it. I enjoy high frame rates. I know other styles are more cinematic and stuff, but it's my channel. I get a little bit of control, right? Moving on. Pid says, on the Razer phone impressions, isn't this more of a media consumption heavy phone, not just gaming? If it's a media consumption phone, why are you all asking for 30 FPS? All phones can play 30 FPS videos. If it's a media consumption device, it's incredibly standard. Lots of phones can play that. In fact, most smartphones can play standard frame rates. If anything, my videos are gonna look extremely good on the Razer phone with that extra refresh rate that's not turned on by default because it hurts your battery. That wraps it up for today, folks. I hope you all enjoyed, and hopefully, if things are going to plan, I should be uploading my iPhone 10 full review, which is quite extensive, despite it being such a simple opinion, just tomorrow, and I hope you all enjoy it. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.